Okay, this is SIC Talks number 122. Here with Greta Rainbow, who is a writer with bylines at many places, but also an editor at The Creative Independent and also at Dirt, favorite publication of the house here at SIC. I met Greta, speaking of, at a Dirt event at a bar in the East Village and was just struck by her effusive energy and just, joie de vivre, let's call it. And we struck up a conversation and I said, hey, will you come and be on the pod? And she said, I think, Greta, you said, I need to do more podcasts. And I said, okay, great. Well, I've got one. It's not going to be your highest profile appearance, but here I am. Let's do it.
And then it took me, well, thank you for having me, Ben. And, it took me a while.
Great pleasure.
It took me a while to actually respond. I am so bad. This is my one. I really need to get better at, timely responses, but I always do eventually.
Well,
it's been fine.
I think it probably at some point starts with your name, right? Like your name gives you a little bit of license to be a free spirit or to be sort of like to follow the rhythms of the world. That was one of the things we talked about in the first place was like, okay, so when did you name yourself Greta Rainbow? And you're like,
I did not. I told you the story, right?
You did. You did. Well, I mean, but please reprise it here for the people.
I mean, the story is that there really isn't one. It's like my dad's name, and he is English, and they're quite like stiff upper lip people. And I mean, his family's lovely, but in that English way of like they don't like hug or talk about their emotions, which you'd think that someone with last name Rainbow would. And then my parents moved to Seattle in the 90s because, what better place to be. And so then growing up and then, in the 2000s in Seattle, it was like, oh yeah, like you're Greta Rainbow. Like I like know your whole, and I was like, no, you don't.
Yeah. It's a very PNW kind of name in some ways.
I love it.
Well, so do I, for what it's worth. So I'm really glad to hear that. I think there's a lot of people that are not au fait with their given names and seek to reinvent or nickname themselves or whatever the case maybe is. And so I love that you are happy with it.
I think this recent piece that I published, which was like a diary for the Paris Review, I slipped in there that my name was it's not a chosen name. And it had been something I've been meaning to do for a while. I feel like in writing, like somehow say, not that I can really tell everyone, like, go read this for the backstory, but that piece is about a seance, and I had this moment of self-consciousness at the seance of feeling like people think that, of course, a girl with that name is at a seance.
Yeah. Well, okay. I thought that was a funny line. I also, for what it's worth, didn't read it as much of a disclosure that Greta Rainbow wasn't your like a chosen name as you might have thought. So maybe you might have to reiterate, maybe this might become actually a bit like a signature thing in your writing going forward. Is like you figure out some way to be like, yeah, that's my given name every time. In any case, I like that piece. I thought it was cool, not least of which because my wife just had a session with the medium last week and then has been going on some journeys of spiritual discovery, let's call it, recently. And so she and I have been talking a lot about the sort of intercommunication between the realms, or whatever you want to call it. Like we are not, I am certainly not a religious person, never have been, or a particularly spiritual one as you say it, but it's been interesting having some of these conversations and saying it. What did you take away from that experience? I mean, pure hucksterism, pure truth. That's the continuum. Where are we on that? I
know it's okay. So there was so the place itself is pretty special where I went to the seance. It's called Casa Dega, and it's a spiritualist community. So not just spiritual, but specifically like capital S. This started in like the 1800s, actually in upstate New York. These two sisters heard rappings on their walls, and they figured out that they were ghosts communicating with them. And so I also liked that it was just that like people took these like two young girls seriously and like created a whole religion out of it. It's kind of like a loose religion where the main tenet is that life continues on after the change, so-called death, and that it's possible to communicate with that realm. And so I liked the like history. And so then this place is in like Central Florida, and it's like swampy, and I liked being there. And I'm interested in the people who choose to live there. It's different than it once was. A lot of them are doing like online tarot readings, like, which is kind of sad. It's the in-person is special. And there was a medium named Philip, and then he had an apprentice named Angel. And I felt like Angel really, she just read people. Like, she just had that gift of intuition. And so what she said, even though it was like, I don't think anyone in the room was talking to people who have died, but I think that they were like picking up on energy, and the whole thing is, it's supposed to be healing. And so there was some, I really didn't like, there was some cliche like your grandpa would have been so proud of you to some people, and I was like, no, I'm not getting that. But
Right.
Angel, I loved her. I feel like, yeah, it is like about the person. Have you and your
Yeah.
wife found someone?
No. Well, I mean, we found each other, right? There's the special person.
You
No,
don't need
but
a third.
my wife has. I mean, my wife has had, and this is her story to tell, and I actually don't know any of the names, and I'm talking out of turn a little bit, but she has experienced in some of her spiritual psychedelic meanderings connections with people from her past, deceased relatives of mine, that sort of stuff. They come in it, not unlike the spirit animal thing that you described in the piece, where somebody shows up to sort of guide. And one of the things that was kind of amazing, one of the reasons that the Paris Review piece resonated with me, was that in it, my mother, who passed away at the beginning of last year, told her about a missing piece of jewelry, which Marcella then subsequently found. And it was like, yeah, it was pretty. So your Uncle Dan's letter and that whole thing was like, all right, that sounds like the sort of thing that a talented huckster could easily like incept. But by the same token, like, I don't know, it's not that far off. Point of interest. I grew up in Syracuse, which is 60 miles from Hydesville, which is where modern spiritualism started. So,
did you ever go over there?
No, as a matter of fact, I heard about it in your piece this afternoon. So no, I did not ever go there. But I just thought, you said upstate New York, and I was like, let me Google that real quick. And it turns out 60 miles away. Now, also, interestingly, very close to Palmyra, which, if I'm not mistaken, is where Joseph Smith discovered the book of the tablets that became the Book of Mormon. And so maybe there's a real, like, we've got a real spiritual vortex there. Trend forecaster Sean Monahan, also from not very far away from there. So, we can also blame the vibe shift on that. And, all stuff.
I believe there being a vortex, and like, I don't know, like shakers, like there's just like interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. Well, the thing that I liked about that piece was that you had license to present as yourself, to do it in a sort of a bemused fashion, but not a disattached one, and also that you could bring your mom and your grandmother along on the writing assignment. I wonder, did you pitch that to Paris Review ahead of time, or did you have the experience and then come back to them with the story?
I told them I had been wanting. Well, it's kind of a dream publication for me. Like many years. And this is the web version, but I think they're doing brilliant stuff over there. And there is a new editor, newish now, Tarpley Hitt. She was at the Drift, maybe still is. Wrote a book about Barbies. So I'm a big fan of her work, and she had recently started. And I emailed her and was like, I think we met at Daniel Collitz's birthday party. I name dropped.
We met at the thing.
and was like, I would love to write for you, and here are a few disparate ideas and threads, and including, I was like, and one of them is that I am going to Florida. I think it was like the next week, and I was like, and I have this plan, and that was totally the most, I think, salacious idea to pick up. Yeah. And
Okay.
so she was like, I'm interested in that, but let's talk when you get back and like after, see how it actually was.
Got it.
And so I think I'm always taking little notes on my life, but this especially, I was thinking it could turn into something. Yeah, taking photos. I'm bad at remembering to take photos. I was taking photos, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to ask that, and it ties into the other piece or one of the other pieces you shared with me, which was the one from Interview. I think one of the reasons it's taken a while for you to come on the pod is that you were making a trip to Aspen to the AIR event and to what that precedes the Aspen Art Fair. At that one, you not only included a few little details like Hans Ulrich Obrist cut you in line, which was cute. I really like that one. And then also there were a bunch of photos, which I presume you took, right?
Yeah,
Were those your photos?
That's interview style. It's like
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
iPhone photos from the author, which stresses me out because I have like a unique gift for taking really unflattering photos of people. Some you either have it or you don't.
I do. I have a unique gift for appearing unflattered in photos. So it's like
that too.
I'd struggle, but no, I thought it was cool, and I guess this all, I want to hear more about Austin in a second, or Aspen rather. But one of the reason I bring it up is because when we first met, we were talking about the idea of stringing together a living as a freelance journalist or as an independent journalist, let's call it. And just based on what you were telling me, I was like, God, Greta seems to be making it work. And at that time, there had been so many stories in particular about just like the death of the media business, or the death of independent publishing, or, whatever. And all of which, it's not to take anything away from any of the facts of any of those stories. But my feeling has always been like people who are smart enough, engaged enough, and active enough will figure it out. And you then appeared as a vision before me, figuring it out, and I was just like, this is cool. So I wanted to understand how the assignment for the Paris Review thing worked, how the assignment for the interview thing worked, how you sort of puzzle your life as a creative together for working with all these people.
I remember I so admired that you asking me, being like, is this really, like, how are you doing this, like, is this all that you do, like,
yeah.
like what's behind it? Because I love to talk about it, and I love to talk about like how many bad pitches I sent for years, and I love to talk about my like part-time gigs that make it so that I can do, because the interview piece, like I am, that was really lucky, lovely. One of the editors there, Emily Sandstrom, really wanted to go, but she had a family wedding, and she was like, I think that you'll do a great job of like, knowing what Hans Ulrich Obrist looks like, so that you can get the detail of him cutting you in line.
So you can make the joke. Yeah, exactly.
And so but interview does not, I'm not making a living off of interview pieces. Like, what do you think that a digital piece for them, what do they pay?
$150.
Okay, it's $250. So,
okay, see, so
yeah, so it's like,
but presumably they got you there, right? They
totally
arranged for all of that. So there's
the PR did, but then it's an incredible, like, I am so glad that I did that. I felt so lucky.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. I mean, to me, in the conversation, what I liked about the conversation we had was I probably told you a little bit of this. So when I first came to New York, I worked at a record label as an hourly worker for $13 an hour. I wrote freelance pieces for the Philadelphia Weekly and Philadelphia City Paper and a few other magazines, national magazines, just like literally as a way to just have beer money for the weekends. And none of it was ever in service of like this grand plan to put things together. But each show I went to introduced me to new people. Like I met my wife at a show. It's and I think the attitude that young people should try to have is, I'm doing this not because I have to, but I'm doing this because it's going to benefit me, and it's also it's going to sustain me in the short term. And you know, you really came with that energy when we met, so it struck me.
I love that mentality. And yeah, you feel I met amazing people, but then I also an editor at this magazine called Family Style.
Sure, of course.
Yeah,
Former guest of the show, Aaron Stern, is their art director.
Okay, fabulous. It looks great. It looks great.
It does look. Shout out, Aaron.
Great writing. And an managing editor, Miko Boyle. We lived together for a few months in 2020. We like started the pandemic together.
Oh wow, cool.
And I hadn't spent time with her like properly since then. And she was on the Aspen trip. So
I love that. This was the section where you had regular martini and regular fries, so that you could feel like regular people in Aspen.
Yeah.
The whole. So I learned a number of things from your piece, and from Ben Davis's piece, which we should talk about in a second too. One of which was the Aspen Institute, or the Aspen Art Museum, or the Aspen Institute. I don't know which one doesn't have a permanent collection. It only shows temporary works.
Yeah,
that was kind
Aspen Art Museum.
Thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was one. That was one thing I learned. The second thing that I learned was around the junket and the composition of the junket. Right, it's you, it's Nico. It sounds like it's Ben as well, and just like who's there intermingling with the collectors, the artists, Matthew Barney and his lady, and then finally like how much of a essentially like how much that moment encapsulates our little K-shaped world, right? Like the anecdote that Ben ends his piece with, talking to the cab driver, saying like I've never felt more of the the distance between have and have not in the art world than being here, and the woman being like, "You're from New York, didn't know that." I thought that was really canny. Anyway, I'm talking too much for a Greta Rainbow interview.
I loved Ben's piece. He is like such a king, like prince among men, like hanging out with him, just can talk to anyone. I feel like, yeah, I've been reading him for years and he was so lovely and no bullshit. And I have the sense that some people are a bit annoyed about my piece on
Really, why?
The Air Festival. It's definitely snarky. The tone is specifically one of the artists, Ivan Chang, who had this kind of performance in a solid waste facility at 9 a.m. Just outside of Aspen. We're taking like the group of people is like, yeah, this 10 or so journalists, artists, donors, people working the festival or like working for the museum or working for these institutions that help make it happen. And then the most fun people are probably like the actors who are in the Camille Enroe play, and they get to go to stuff because they're there. Or they work for Matthew Barney, yeah. And so we're all taking these shuttle buses constantly to see these different works, a lot of which was like really amazing. And I really liked Ivan's. I think I called him like a dumpster diving nymph or something, like just like kind of like running all over these like piles of trash and monologuing and audience participation, including like kind of laying his head in the lap of a member of the Aspen Art Museum's board. Her name is Marcy. And he shouted her out, and he's like, I'm gonna go right there over to Marcy. And I was seated right in the row behind her, so I really saw all this. And I think that he called my piece brutal. And I was like, what really? Do you mean? Yes, I was brutal. Like, what do you mean? Like, what part? Or like, oh God.
No, and he called it to you. What, this is like him tweet replying, and then you
This is a DM. This is a DM.
Oh,
and I think he'd be okay with me saying this.
Okay.
And so I kind of pressed him, and he was like, or just was like, asked for more context. And he was like, well, the whole thing reads like you working out your sense of alienation from the uber wealthy, which sure, understood. But then it kind of dilutes what I was trying to do. And like I become a punchline by like including Marcy at the end. And I was like, I guess for me, I could not divorce the experience of watching a kind of grand, like immersive, interactive piece without thinking about who I was watching it with.
Yeah.
And I think that Ben Davis talks about this, like mediated audiences in his
Yeah.
piece.
Well, I mean, first, just really quickly, the the Ben quote about Ivan's performance was, out to the sun-blasted city dump for a chaotic performance by Ivan Chen, which involved him running frantically around the perimeter, mugging for a drone. I'm like, but okay, you want brutal? Like that's, I mean, if that's not an outright dismissal, then it's, I don't know what, it's something.
You're so right. Mugging for a drone is tough. The drone was a character. The drone was loud. The drone was there.
Well, either way, I mean, I do, but I think this is the thing. It's like, context is everything, right? And
Yes.
how could you think of it as anything but that? And so the way to do it is to, if you're going to put your head on somebody's lap, don't figure out who it is ahead of time and make them significantly important to the piece, or alternately discover later that the person was significantly important and have it be an unintended gesture,
I think it doesn't. I think that for me, especially for this sort of diary piece, getting into the process of it, like, wouldn't be interesting. It's simply like, what was my interpretation of the encounter as I witnessed it?
Yeah.
And so I think I also I like being. I think the piece was funny. It is maybe like mean at times, but not mean spirited.
I
And I
didn't think
loved it. Okay, good. Yeah.
yeah, it didn't strike me as mean at all. I mean, a little pointed, a little arch maybe at times, but not mean, and not in a cruel way. I mean, to me, mean is like we're trying to wound, as opposed to
Yeah, definitely
calling it as you see it and trying to
not
be a
at
little funny maybe
all.
at it.
I think I wanted to like have it be entertaining to someone, to my peers who also like have never been to Aspen,
I've
and
never been to
like,
Aspen.
yeah, and why would you,
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, yeah, don't know.
yeah, it was hard to, it was so yeah, it was very like it was a long trip. It was really like a week.
Yeah, it seemed that way.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so tell me, I mean, this is so let's say that this is the the essence of the modern freelance journalist economy, right? Like, you are pitching your own ideas, you are being pitched ideas. Funny, speaking of Casadega, I got pitched on going on an Airbnb encounter around one of their new small town focuses. I don't I I got to be totally honest. I think they reached out to me in error, but in any case, I'm going down the rabbit hole to see where it goes. I just think it would be really fascinating.
I'm
But
so
it's,
excited for this for you.
yeah, so there is that, and there is then there is your editorship at Creative Independent, and with Dirt, like, as you think about how you sit on the other side of that coin and receive pitches and talk to your peers from that side, what's the thought process, or is there a way, do you distinguish between the two, or is it sort of like everybody's in search of a great story, and so consequently it's just my role to pitch or receive?
It's like maybe a cliche at this point, but it's so true. Like, that you really should, it should be that you're the only one who can write that story. And that's
Okay.
like, I and that you can take that so broad. It's like, that doesn't mean that if you don't have like some personal connection to the subject matter. No, not at all. It's just like, I really want to hear, like, what is the unique thing? Like,
Yeah.
It can't just be about like, I got a lot of pitches for Dirt on the new Greta Rocky movie, I Want Your Sex, which is Olivia Wilde and Cooper Hoffman.
Set in
I
the art
saw it
world.
set in the art world. I didn't love it.
Have you ever loved a Gregor Rocky movie?
I have. I really
Really?
have. Like, nowhere. I love his old stuff.
Okay. I think
So
his old
for
stuff
me,
is fine. I understand why it's important. To say I love it would be a real stretch.
I probably partly love it because I encountered it, after the fact, and so it felt
Yeah,
like
sure.
retro.
Sure.
this didn't quite land for me. It was like it wasn't enough. I wanted like more. I also think Charlie XCX, you don't have to act. It's okay. We still think you're multi-talented.
She's got the whole album about that, though. I mean, come on. Why are you trying to take the camera away from her? Come
The
on,
album is
Charlie.
growing on me. The album is growing on me. That's fine.
It's funny. I had this conversation the other day with somebody about the Apple version versus the Spotify version, because I listen to music through Spotify, and so I'm missing some tracks apparently, which I've got to go
What?
to Apple and find out. Yeah, there's bonus tracks on the Apple Music version.
I also did not know about this,
Yeah,
but I probably won't look for them.
yeah. I mean, I'm not a Charlie completist, but I am a big fan, and so I will go track it down at some point. I made a playlist recently around Persona, Persona, because that's my favorite song from the record.
Ooh, what is that? I can only think of the shopping one, right? This is me trying to make you sing.
No, I'm gonna don't make me fuck with your ego. It's something like that. That's how it's essentially it's a conversation with another person who she sees as being a intellectual and emotional foil who could very easily be her partner, George. It could very easily be herself. It could very easily be the sort of Lord a la Feuds of the Past type of situation. I haven't looked into the lore yet. I just like the song. It's kind of angular and spiky.
And it's another, she's shouting out that she knows Ingmar Bergman. She knows Ball. She really wants us to know. I think that's what irks me is I'm like, I get it. You like movies.
Yeah. No. I feel you completely. All right. So no to Gregoraki, but that does bring me to the crux of this conversation in a lot of respects, which we're getting to towards the end of the episode. I am fascinated with where fascinating people get their information. What do you look to like absorb, process, and then, respond to?
I have my trusted sources, which
I will not reveal on this podcast.
No,
nice try, Ben.
Just people who, if a certain person is talking about something, I want to tap in, and that's a lot of people, and so it means that it's mediated through, like, I am online, like I am on X, the everything app, I am on Instagram, but I love a text. I love chatting about pieces. My boyfriend is also a writer.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, he's more like politics, tech, business at the Atlantic. Okay. Shout out. But I love talking about writing with him. I love talking about it with Daisy Alioto, which is why it's been so fun to join editing, because I feel like we're so aligned on like what is good writing. But it is a lot of it is social media right now. Okay. I did subscribe to, I have a print subscription to New York Mag now, which has been really fun. I took it to the beach. I took like their Hamptons issue to Rockaway Beach yesterday.
I've been carrying the Hamptons issue, the Knicks championship issue, and the one after it, which escapes me right now. I've been carrying around for weeks because I'm just like, I'm going to sit down with the print. And because when it shows up in the mail, I flip through it immediately, but then I don't sit down and actually read it. And those 3 issues have all had things in them that I'm just like, I can sit down and read this thing. So I've been just like ferrying them around with me. Stupid.
And it's good. You can do the crossword. You should always have a crossword and a pen.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, you don't have to. You see behind me, print is a pretty important part of the whole ecosystem over here. But yeah, okay. So New York Mag and print, your secret cabal of influences, Daisy and your boyfriend.
What are some other? I like shout out New York Review of Architecture.
Okay.
They are. It's so much more than art. I feel like a really good sell for it is that I met someone at a party and we were like trying to make small talk, and he was like, I'm an architect, and I was like, I write for the New York Review of Architecture, and he was like, well, that's not about architecture really, and I was like, yeah, that's why it's amazing. That's why it's so good.
Thanks.
That's why it's so good. Like, it's the things I've written for them have been about buildings sometimes, but also like Sleep No More, when that closed, the like spatial experience of New York Film Festival.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, you say Sleep No More and inhabiting that building, which then becomes the apocryphal McKittrick Hotel, like, of course that's an architecture product or an architecture adjacent situation. Like, it seems shocking to me that an architect would dismiss that, because it's like, okay, well, what are you thinking about? Like, the way people don't move through your space? Like, stupid. I don't like that architect, whoever that is, whoever that was.
I know. I don't know his name, but
wasn't
I know
Ulrich Obrist.
I want to give you more concrete answers to this question, because it is like, it's lame to be like, oh, whatever I see.
We'll tell you what, because we're coming to the end of the episode. Think about it a little bit and then send me some suggestions. Send me the Greta's picks, because I would be really keen to know that. And also, look, I just think I have a very particular way of processing the world around me, which I assumed for many years, until I was quite aged, that everybody else did too. And so in discovering that not everybody else does it the same way, I'm, looking to learn.
And I think that's what feels exhausting, is it feels like it's all the same. And I think you're like, oh, everyone's reading that article. But it's first of all, it's not true. And also, what an amazing thing to feel like we're all reading the same thing and can talk about it.
Well, I think we really want that in a certain respect, because we are so disintermediated from each other's media consumption.
Yeah. Like, that's why maybe when someone texts me and is like, do you have thoughts on this in particular? Or even Cleveland Review of Books. There's so many little reviews of books, and they're all so good often. The Cleveland Review of Books ran an essay by this writer. She's not a full-time writer, but she's an excellent writer, Ella Gray Hickman. And it was about the photographer Nadia Lee Cohen, who had this photo book. Like,
sure.
Did you see this? Like,
No, I have not tracked down the book. I'm very familiar with her oeuvre, but I have not tracked down the book.
So the writer, Ella, is from rural Ohio, and Nadia Lee Cohen is, it's like glamour shots of like poor Ohioans, and she's like a tenuous connection to the place. And Ella's review is just, it's perfect. It's a little bit personal. It's a little bit, art critique. I loved it. And I ran into her last night and was with other people like, oh, what's your name? And somehow organically it came up for me to recommend to a friend. I was like, oh, you should read Ella's piece. And I really hope, so that's my favorite thing. Like, I hope that my friend took the recommendation,
right?
And I hope that someone does that for me, and that I take the recommendation, and then we can all be readers in community.
I love that. Well, just the spirit of generosity that's involved there generosity and curiosity, right? Both. It's like they're equal and opposite in that equation, and both crucial. Greta, where do people find you?
I have a website, GretaRainbow.com. And then my socials are GERTS official, which is a holdover from going to McGill University in Montreal. And that was our campus bar. And I'm sure there was a time when it was like funny to be like, oh, like that place doesn't have an official like Instagram. But then it kind of like, some people do call me that.
Got it. Okay.
I'm taking driving lessons, and my driving instructor was like, do you have a nickname? Because I just can't really remember Greta. And I was like, I don't know if you'll be able to remember Gertz any better. I think he settled on G, or G Money.
Okay. G Money. All right. G Money. Well, this has been really fun, Greta. Thank you for taking the time. And listeners will be looking for your, short list of recommendations in the comments.
I will send that, Ben.
Okay, good.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Everybody, thanks for listening. This has been SIC Talks number 122 with Greta Rainbow. And I'll be back next week, and look for Greta's byline everywhere you read everything. Bye.